The bar lights were dim, casting a warm amber glow across the wooden walls and the salt-stained floorboards. Outside, the coastal wind rattled the windows, but inside, the air felt heavy with quiet comfort, the kind that comes from years of routine and old souls sharing the same space. When Mason Hale pushed through the door with 3 members of his SEAL team, the atmosphere shifted only slightly. Their boots thudded on the floor, their shoulders relaxed for the first time in months, and for a brief moment, the world didn't feel like a battlefield. They were young, strong, sharp-eyed, and still carrying the adrenaline of deployment. Mason scanned the room instinctively. Old habits. His gaze caught on the bartender first, a broad man with graying hair who polished the counter with slow, practiced motions. But the bartender barely glanced at them. His eyes kept straying to the corner of the room as though guarding something precious or dangerous. Mason followed that look. An old man sat alone at a corner table, posture straight as a mast, fingers gently curled around a half-filled glass of whiskey. His jacket was worn, edges frayed from time and storms. His hands were scarred, but steady, not the tremble of age, but the stillness of a man who had spent a lifetime learning how not to shake. His jaw was square, beard trimmed, but rough, like he cared enough to keep it clean, but not enough to impress anyone. There was something about him, a weight, a gravity, that pulled Mason's attention deeper. The rest of the bar seemed to bend around the old man, as if even the shadows preferred to stand at attention near him. And the bartender, the way he glanced over every few seconds, almost protectively, made Mason wonder who the hell this man was. "What's with the old-timer in the corner?" Mason asked quietly. The bartender's hand stopped. "Son, show some respect." Mason raised an eyebrow. "I'm just asking. That man's earned more respect than anyone who's walked in here tonight." Mason's teammates exchanged looks, half confused, half intrigued. They'd seen plenty of veterans, broken, loud, proud, but this man didn't fit any category. So Mason walked over. "Evening, sir," he said with a grin. "Mind if I ask your call sign?" The old man lifted his gaze slowly, gray eyes cold, sharp, and impossibly deep. "They called me." His voice was gravel and winter. "The Reaper." The bar went dead silent. Even the wind seemed to stop breathing. And for the first time that night, Mason felt small. The silence in the bar settled like a thick fog after the old man spoke his call sign. Even the jukebox hummed a softer, more cautious tune. Mason returned to his team, all of them wide-eyed with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Ramirez leaned in first, voice barely above a whisper. "Bro, did he really say the Reaper?" "As in the Reaper." Liam swallowed hard. "That's impossible. He'd be what, late 60s now? The stories about him are like 30 years old." Mason didn't answer. He just stared at the old man, who sat motionless again, as if the brief exchange had drained years of energy from him. The man wasn't just old. He was waiting. For what? Mason couldn't guess. They didn't get long to ponder. The bar door slammed open hard enough to rattle the bottles on the shelves. 5 men strutted inside, loud and smelling like cheap beer, cigarettes, and arrogance. Local trouble, the kind of men who preyed on the quietness of small coastal towns. The bartender stiffened, but said nothing. His eyes darted to the Reaper, worried, pleading even. The thugs spotted the old man almost instantly. "Well, look who's still breathing," the leader sneered, swaggering up to the corner table. "Didn't think fossils like you made it out at night." Mason's instincts kicked in. He stood, ready to intercept, but the Reaper lifted a single finger, small, subtle, but filled with unshakable authority. Mason froze mid-step, baffled at how effortlessly that gesture commanded him. The thug leaned over the old man's table, blowing air thick with alcohol in his face. "You deaf, old man? Talking to you." Still, the Reaper didn't move. He didn't flinch, didn't blink. He simply existed with the calm of someone who had faced far worse than drunken bullies. One of the men shoved the table, spilling the Reaper's drink. The glass rolled across the floor, clinking its protest. The act snapped something in the air like a wire pulled too tight. "Oops," the thug chuckled. "Guess I owe you a new one." He raised his fist, sloppy and telegraphed. He never got the chance to swing it. The Reaper moved, not fast in the frantic way of a brawl, but with fluid precision. A twist of the wrist, a sharp snap, a cry of pain. The thug's arm bent the wrong direction as he fell to his knees. The next lunge forward. The Reaper sidestepped, redirecting his weight into the bar with a dull, breath-knocking thud. Another tried grabbing him from behind, but the old man struck a nerve cluster, dropping him instantly. 3 seconds. 5 men disabled. The SEAL team, trained in the art of violence, could only stare. This wasn't luck, wasn't adrenaline. It was mastery, refined, deadly, and impossibly controlled. And for the first time that night, Mason understood why the whole bar had gone silent when the old man spoke his call sign. The bar had quieted again, the chaos of the intruders leaving a heavy, tense residue in the air. Mason stayed close to the old man, unable to pull his eyes away, sensing there was more behind those gray, haunted eyes than even the stories had suggested. The SEALs leaned against the wall, quietly nursing drinks they no longer wanted, giving Mason space to approach the legend sitting in front of him. "You weren't kidding," Mason said softly, voice low, respectful now. "The stories are true." The old man took a slow sip of whiskey, letting the amber liquid slide down like a ritual before speaking. "Stories are always simpler than the truth," he murmured. His voice had the weight of decades spent in shadows. "The world remembers the myth, not the man." Mason nodded, sensing the depth of pain in those words. Why hide? Why disappear? The Reaper's gaze moved toward the window, watching the waves crash against the pier as if they carried pieces of his past. "I was a weapon," he said quietly, almost to himself, "sent to eliminate threats, protect secrets. I believed in every mission until I realized who the real enemy was." Mason leaned closer. "Who?" "The man I trusted most." The Reaper's fingers drummed on the glass, deliberate and slow. "Briggs, my commander. He gave an order that was supposed to eliminate my entire team. False intel. Betrayal. He wanted us gone, silenced before we could expose the corruption in our own chain of command." Mason's stomach sank. The rage simmering behind the old man's calm exterior was palpable. "And your team?" he asked softly. "They died," the Reaper whispered. "I was the only one who survived. I was left for dead, erased from every record, every memory. My wife, my daughter, they were threatened to keep me quiet. They told them I deserted, that I was dangerous. I lost them both." The room seemed to shrink around Mason, the weight of such betrayal settling like a stone in his chest. He could feel the pain and rage radiating from the Reaper, the kind that only comes from someone who has given everything and been stripped of everything in return. "I stay dead," the old man said finally, "because the world doesn't care for justice. They care for convenience. But waiting gives you something no one can take, the chance to strike back on your own terms." Mason looked at him with a mix of awe and determination. "I get it, and I want to help. We can bring him down together." The Reaper shook his head slowly, a small, bitter smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Justice isn't found in courts, son. Not for men like Briggs. It's found in patience, in timing, and in knowing exactly how to make your enemies regret underestimating you." For the first time, Mason felt the true weight of the man before him. Not just a legend, but a survivor, a ghost, and a storm waiting to be unleashed. The quiet didn't last long. Before Mason could even catch his breath, the bar door slammed open again, louder this time, carrying a cold, calculated menace. The same group of thugs from earlier stormed in, but they were different now, armed, coordinated, and moving like they weren't just looking for trouble, but had a mission. The leader's eyes locked on the Reaper immediately. "Commander Briggs sends his regards," the man said with a cruel smirk, voice dripping with authority and malice. Mason felt a chill run down his spine. Briggs, the man who had betrayed the Reaper, who had destroyed his team, who had torn apart his life, was still pulling strings, still alive, and now sending his own men to finish what he started decades ago. The old man rose slowly, his movements deliberate, controlled. There was no panic, no hesitation, just a quiet, terrifying readiness. Mason felt the weight of decades of experience in every small gesture, in every calculated breath. "Stay behind me," he whispered to his team. The first thug lunged with a knife, and the Reaper moved like a shadow. Every motion was precise, a dance perfected through years of battle. A twist here, a strike there. One man collapsed silently, another crumpled into a chair. Bullets cracked through the bar, splintering wood and shattering bottles. But the Reaper didn't falter. He flowed through the chaos like he owned it, each action economical and lethal. Mason and his team fought alongside him, adrenaline and training blending with the raw precision of the old man. Ramirez took down a man with a single, clean shot. Liam used a fallen chair to shield a fleeing patron. Mason tackled another thug to the ground. But even as they fought fiercely, they all recognized the truth. Nothing they did matched the Reaper. The final thug, the leader, charged at the Reaper with fury in his eyes. The old man sidestepped, guided the man's momentum, and sent him crashing into the bar with a sickening thud. Silence fell again, broken only by the groans of the defeated and the soft hiss of the wind outside. The Reaper wiped the sweat and blood from his hands, his gray eyes scanning the room one last time. Mason approached him cautiously, chest heaving, a mixture of awe and relief. "You saved us all," he said. The old man nodded once, quietly, almost sadly. "I reminded myself I still have a life to live." He reached into his jacket pocket and handed Mason a faded dog tag, scratched and worn. "Remember, son, a real warrior doesn't fight for glory. He fights for those who can't." Without another word, the Reaper walked toward the door. Mason watched him disappear into the night, a ghost once more, leaving behind legends, stories, and a promise that justice, in the hands of the patient and relentless, could still be served. The bar remained silent, the air thick with awe, as if the memory of his presence would linger forever.